This story is titled, When My Wife Requested a Relationship Pause to Spend Time with Another Man, I Seized the Opportunity for Revenge by Sleeping with Her Mother. Hey everyone, I've been a long-time lurker on this subreddit, but I finally created an account because I need to get this off my chest. I'm going through some wild stuff right now, and I think writing it out might help me process everything that's happened. My name is Tom, I'm 29 years old, and until a few weeks ago, I thought I had my life pretty much figured out. 3 years ago, I met this girl, I'll call her Melissa, at my buddy's house party. She was 27 at the time, brunette, athletic, and had this incredible confidence that just pulled me in immediately. From the moment I spotted her across the room, I couldn't look away. We started talking that night, and the chemistry was instant. The way she kept laughing at my jokes and casually touching my arm when she made a point. I knew right away that I wanted to see where this could go. We exchanged numbers before the night ended, and I called her the very next day. Melissa turned out to be an interior designer who did freelance work for some big clients in the area. Our schedules matched up perfectly, which made dating surprisingly easy. We'd catch dinner after work during the week and spend our weekends hiking local trails or checking out new breweries that opened up around town. The chemistry between us was amazing in every way, if you know what I mean. After dating for about a year, moving in together just made sense. I had this nice place in a good neighborhood, a 2-bedroom with a recently renovated bathroom and all the stuff that matters in a home. Melissa moved in with her clothes, some furniture, and this collection of succulents she was absolutely obsessed with. Living together turned out to be surprisingly easy. We didn't have those annoying fights about dishes or laundry that my buddies were always complaining about with their girlfriends. Fast forward 2 more years, and things were really solid between us. We started having serious conversations about marriage, kids, and all that future stuff couples plan together. I'd been saving up for a while and finally bought her a ring. I probably spent more than I should have, but I wanted it to be special, you know? Nothing crazy fancy, but the kind that would make her friends a little jealous without screaming that I was trying too hard. I proposed during a weekend trip to the coast, getting down on one knee with the perfect sunset behind us. Total rom-com moment, but it felt right for us. Melissa immediately started crying, the good kind of crying, and said yes before I even finished asking. That night, we stayed up late talking about wedding plans and our future together. We decided on June for the wedding date and found this amazing venue at a vineyard about an hour outside the city. We put down deposits and started looking at catering options, the whole 9 yards. My parents even contributed some cash to help with the costs, though I was covering most of it myself. That's just how I am. I like handling the big financial stuff. Melissa got incredibly invested in the planning process. She'd send me these elaborate Pinterest boards with flower arrangements and table settings and drag me around town to taste different wedding cakes. Honestly, the cake tasting wasn't bad at all. Free cake? I'm definitely in for that. She had all these specific ideas about colors and decorations that I didn't really understand the importance of, but seeing her excited made me happy. While she handled the aesthetic aspects, I managed the practical stuff like the budget and venue contracts. Life seemed perfect. My career was going well with regular promotions. I had the girl of my dreams, a nice house, and our future mapped out in front of us. My buddies were either jealous or making jokes about me being whipped, but I could tell they respected what I had going on. Even my dad, who's incredibly hard to impress, told me he was proud of how I'd settled down. That's where things stood a few months back, before everything went sideways. About 6 months before our wedding, I started noticing subtle changes in Melissa. Nothing major at first, just little things that seemed off. I'm generally pretty observant. You have to be in my line of work. So these small shifts in her behavior didn't slip by me unnoticed. The wedding planning that had previously had Melissa buzzing with excitement suddenly became something she kept putting off. Earlier, she would text me dress options during my workday or call me about which flowers to pick for the centerpieces. Now, when I'd ask basic questions like, "Hey, did you decide on your bridesmaids yet?" she'd just shrug and say, "Not yet, still thinking about it." The same pattern emerged with her dress selection, the cake flavor, the DJ, all the things she used to obsess over constantly. I remember clearly asking her about finalizing the centerpieces one evening, and she literally said, "There's still plenty of time, Tom. We don't need to rush everything." This coming from the woman who had made a 6-month countdown calendar for our wedding that was proudly displayed on our refrigerator. Then, there was the phone thing. Melissa started guarding her iPhone like it contained nuclear launch codes. It was always placed face down when I was around. She began taking calls in another room or retreating to the bathroom for what seemed like casual conversations. I'd catch her texting with this little secretive smile on her face, and whenever I'd walk by, she'd quickly switch apps or turn the screen off. Classic sketchy behavior, right? At first, I tried to convince myself that maybe she was planning some surprise for me, or perhaps communicating with vendors about wedding details she wanted to reveal later. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. There was something more concerning happening. Still, I didn't make a big deal about it initially. I didn't want to come across as the jealous, controlling fiancé. Plus, I wanted actual evidence before saying anything that might start an unnecessary argument. That's when the real eye-opener happened. We were at this party with our friends when someone suggested playing this stupid TikTok game where you answer questions without thinking. Just blurt out the first thing that comes to mind. Most questions were silly stuff like, "What's your most embarrassing moment?" Or, "Who would you swap lives with for a day?" Then came the question, if you could relive one relationship from your past, which would it be? Without even hesitating for a second, Melissa instantly said, "Definitely Chris." The whole room went quiet for a moment. Everyone knew who Chris was, her college boyfriend. They had dated for about 2 years before we met. According to Melissa, he was her first serious relationship, the guy who supposedly broke her heart when he cheated on her with some girl from his study group. Our friend Ben tried to smooth things over with a joke, but man, that moment felt weird and uncomfortable. I kept my face neutral, not wanting to create a scene in front of our friends. But inside, I was thinking, what the actual hell? Who says that in front of their fiancé? Later that night when we got home, I casually brought it up, trying to keep the conversation light. "So Chris, huh? Interesting choice for that question," I said as we were getting ready for bed. She instantly got defensive. "Oh my God, it was just a stupid game. Don't read into it," she snapped. "I was just saying the first thing that came to mind." "I understand that," I replied. "But of all your exes, that's who you'd want to relive a relationship with? The guy who cheated on you?" She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Tom, seriously, it doesn't mean anything. Can we not make this into a thing?" I dropped it after that. It didn't seem worth fighting over, especially so late at night. But her reaction stuck with me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. After that night, I started paying more attention to her behavior. I noticed she'd been searching Chris's name on Instagram when she thought I wasn't looking. Through a mutual friend, I found out that Chris had actually moved back to town a couple months earlier, right after finalizing his divorce. The timing seemed suspiciously convenient. And then there was Melissa's best friend, Natalie. That girl suddenly started hanging around our place a lot more frequently than before. She'd be there when I got home from work, sitting with Melissa at the kitchen island, their conversation stopping abruptly the moment I walked in. Natalie would give me this weird smile and say, "Just girl talk," before changing the subject entirely. One night, I came home early from work and overheard Natalie and Melissa talking in our living room. They hadn't heard me come in, and I caught part of their conversation from the hallway. "So, you're telling me you never think about Chris anymore? Like at all?" Natalie was saying, her voice slightly probing. "I mean, it was years ago," Melissa replied, though she didn't sound very convincing even to my ears. "But he was your first real love," Natalie pushed. "Those never really go away." I deliberately made some noise in the hallway, and suddenly they were talking about some TV show as if their previous conversation had never happened. At the time, I thought it was odd, but I didn't think too much of it. I tried to convince myself it was just friends reminiscing about old times. Natalie would make these little comments whenever she was over. Things like, "Marriage is such a huge step. You want to be absolutely sure," or "You're still so young. Most people don't settle down until their 30s now." She would always say these things when Melissa was in earshot, always with this concerned look on her face, as if she was simply looking out for her friend's best interests. I'd catch Melissa looking thoughtful after these conversations, quieter than usual, like she was mulling over Natalie's words. One evening, she sat down across from me on the couch while I was watching a game. "Tom, do you ever wonder if we're moving too fast?" she asked out of nowhere. I was genuinely confused by her question. "Too fast? We've been together 3 years. I know, but..." She twisted her engagement ring around her finger nervously. Natalie was saying how her cousin got married young and now she's divorced at 27 because she didn't experience enough life first. "Since when do we make life decisions based on what Natalie's cousin did?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light despite my growing concern. Melissa shrugged. "I'm just saying maybe there's wisdom in making sure we're not rushing." I put down the remote and turned to face her directly. "Babe, we've lived together for 2 years. The wedding's in 6 months. I wouldn't call that rushing by any definition." She nodded, but didn't seem convinced. Yeah, you're right, she said quietly. But the seed of doubt had clearly been planted, and I could see it growing in her eyes. That conversation only increased my suspicions about what was really going on. Then Melissa started coming home late more often, claiming she was out for work drinks or meeting up with friends. Her stories about where she was and who she was with had small inconsistencies. Nothing major enough to directly call her out on, but enough to make me increasingly suspicious. One evening, we were sitting in the living room together, her phone on the coffee table in front of me. A notification popped up on her screen. I didn't even get a chance to read it. Just saw the screen light up, before she practically lunged for it, nearly knocking over her wine glass in the process. I raised an eyebrow at her reaction. Everything okay? She fumbled with some excuse, her voice slightly higher than normal. Just a group chat. Nothing important. Her voice was too quick, too forced to be genuine. I leaned back in my seat, keeping my expression neutral, but internally, alarm bells were ringing loudly. I didn't say anything else about it, but I didn't have to. That reaction alone confirmed my growing suspicions. Little things kept piling up after that. Text messages she angled her screen away for. Dates when her stories didn't match up with where she claimed to be. I'm not proud of it, but I even checked our shared cloud storage account one day and found pictures of her at restaurants she had never mentioned to me. Places we'd never been together. Little did I know how bad the situation was about to get. Then one day, everything finally came out in the open. I got home from work earlier than usual, thinking Melissa and I could grab dinner at that Thai place she loves. Walking through the door, I immediately felt something was off. Melissa was sitting on our couch, still in her work clothes, staring at her phone with this weird, nervous energy surrounding her. Hey babe, I said, dropping my keys in the bowl by the door. You hungry? Thought we could hit up Thai. She jumped a little as if she hadn't heard me come in. Oh, Tom, we need to talk. Those words no guy ever wants to hear, right? My stomach instantly knotted up, but I kept my face neutral. To be honest, I'd been half expecting something like this for weeks now. All right, I said, sitting down across from her. What's up? She couldn't even look me in the eye, just kept fidgeting with the edge of a throw pillow. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about us, about the wedding. I waited, not offering to help her find the words. After what felt like forever, she finally continued. I think I need some time. Some space to figure things out before we get married. Time for what exactly? I asked, even though I already had a pretty good idea where this was going. She took a deep breath. To make sure this is what I really want. Marriage is such a huge commitment, Tom. I need to be certain before we do this. And how exactly are you planning to find this certainty? I kept my voice steady, watching her squirm uncomfortably on the couch. That's when she dropped the bomb I'd been expecting. Chris reached out to me a few weeks ago. We've been talking, and I think there might still be something there. She paused, then added, I feel like I need to explore that before I can fully commit to marriage. Inside, I was absolutely furious. All the planning, the deposits, the years together, and she wanted to hit pause on everything to check if her ex was a better option. But outwardly, I stayed calm. Getting emotional wouldn't help me navigate this situation. So you want to put our engagement on hold while you go see if your ex-boyfriend is more your style? I asked flatly. It's not like that, she insisted, finally looking at me. This isn't about comparing you two. It's about making sure I'm not having doubts. Then she added the kicker. If it doesn't work out, we can pick up right where we left off. I promise. You promise you'll come back? I repeated, incredulous at her audacity. The fucking audacity of it all. She was treating me like some toy she could put on a shelf while she tested out a different model. Like I'd just be sitting here waiting for her to decide I was good enough after all. She kept talking, and I noticed something strange about the way she was expressing herself. Some of the phrases she was using sounded exactly like they were coming from Natalie, not Melissa. I need to honor my feelings and explore unresolved emotions, she said with a practiced sincerity that didn't match her usual way of speaking. That wasn't how Melissa talked. That was pure Natalie speak, the kind of pop psychology phrases her friend was always dropping into conversations. Did Natalie suggest this break? I asked suddenly. Melissa's eyes widened slightly, a small tell that I'd hit close to the mark. What? No. I mean, I talked to her about my feelings, but this is my decision. So you talked to Natalie about Chris before talking to me? I pressed, feeling the pieces click into place. She shifted uncomfortably on the couch. Natalie's my best friend. She knows my history with Chris. And what exactly did Natalie say when you told her you were thinking about reconnecting with your ex? I asked, already guessing the answer. Melissa looked down at her hands. She said I owe it to myself to be sure. That it's better to figure this out now than have regrets after we're married. Of course she did. I'd noticed Natalie texting Melissa a lot lately, always with this concerned expression when they were together. Now I was starting to see the whole picture of how Natalie had been systematically undermining our relationship. "How long are you thinking this break would last?" I asked, deliberately making myself sound more curious than pissed off. She seemed relieved that I wasn't shouting. "Maybe a month? I'll stay at my mom's while I figure things out." I knew for a fact her mom lived over an hour away from the city. There was no way she was planning to commute from there every day for work. She was going to stay with Chris. That was guaranteed. I nodded slowly, as if I was considering her proposal. "If that's what you need." "You're not mad?" she asked, surprise evident all over her face. I shrugged, maintaining my composed exterior. "We all gotta do what's best for us, right? Take your time." She looked so relieved it was almost comical. Like she'd expected a big dramatic fight and was getting off easy. She hugged me tight, thanking me for understanding, completely missing how tense my body was against hers. While she packed a bag, I ordered takeout and acted like everything was normal. I made small talk about work, asked if she needed help carrying her stuff to her car, playing the role of the perfect, understanding fiancé. When she left, promising to call me in a few days, I waited until her car was out of sight before locking the door and letting my real feelings show. I punched a pillow so hard feathers went flying, then paced around our living room, my mind racing with what I needed to do next. She thought I was just going to sit here like a chump, waiting for her to explore things with Chris, and then graciously take her back when she was done experimenting. Hell no. That's not how this was going to play out. The second her car disappeared down the street, I stopped the nice guy act. It was time to get my shit together and move fast, before she changed her mind and tried coming back. First thing I did was call my boy Curtis. We've been tight since college. He was my roommate freshman year, and now he's a lawyer specializing in asset protection. I shot him a text. "Need to talk ASAP, privately." The dude cleared his schedule for me the next morning. That's a real friend right there. My second call was to Olivia, my realtor who had helped me buy the house 2 years ago. "Remember when I mentioned maybe selling in a year or two? Plans changed. Need to list ASAP." Olivia's cool as hell and didn't even ask questions about the sudden change of plans. I also called the wedding venue. "Something's come up. What's your cancellation policy?" I found out I could get 60% of my deposit back if I canceled within the week. Not great, but better than nothing. After that, I systematically went through my list and contacted every single vendor. Photographer, caterer, DJ, florist. Some deposits were completely gone. Others I could get partial refunds on. Whatever, it was just money. The important thing was making sure everything was dismantled before Melissa had a chance to weasel her way back into my life. The next morning, Curtis laid everything out for me in his office. The house was 100% in my name. Melissa had credit problems, so I had taken the mortgage myself. That meant I could sell without her signature. The engagement ring was legally mine until marriage, thank God. And since we weren't married yet, I was in the clear to protect myself however I needed to. "You know you dodged a bullet here," Curtis said while we went over the paperwork. "Imagine if this happened after the wedding." He was right. Splitting assets in a divorce would have been an absolute nightmare. The house went on the market that afternoon. Olivia priced it aggressively to sell quickly, though it would still be profitable in our hot real estate market. I started packing my essential belongings and rented a storage unit for the rest. While cleaning out the home office, I found something interesting. A folder marked "Personal" in Melissa's desk. Being the suspicious person I'd now become, I looked inside. Holy shit. Credit card statements showing over $42,000 in debt she'd never told me about. Designer clothes, spa trips, and, this is the best part, a weekend getaway from 2 months ago when she claimed to be visiting her sister. Hotel charges in a town 3 hours away, restaurant bills for 2. She'd been planning this Chris reunion for months. Looking closer at the dates, I noticed something interesting. Melissa's secret spending started ramping up right around when Natalie got promoted at her law firm. Suddenly there were shopping trips, expensive dinners, weekend getaways, a $700 charge at some designer boutique the day after Natalie's promotion party. It clicked then. Natalie had always lived large, designer everything, fancy car, luxury apartment. And suddenly Melissa was trying to keep up, hiding the bills from me. I remembered Natalie's comments at dinner once. "You work too hard to not treat yourself, Mel, and life's too short to worry about saving all the time. Melissa had always been smart with money before. Natalie's influence had gone into overdrive, and now Melissa was drowning in secret debt while trying to maintain the lifestyle Natalie had normalized. Just another way her best friend had been undermining us without me realizing it. I took pictures of everything and kept packing. After a week into Melissa's break, she texted to check in, acting all casual. "Hey, how are you doing? Miss you." I kept my responses vague but positive. "All good here. Taking care of some business stuff. How's your mom's place?" She had no clue I knew she wasn't at her mom's at all. My buddy Greg had seen her and Chris having dinner downtown 3 days after she left. She was playing house with her ex while keeping me as the backup plan. 2 weeks into Melissa's break, something unexpected happened. Natalie, Melissa's so-called best friend since college, called me out of nowhere. "Can we meet for coffee? There's something you should know," she said, her voice uncharacteristically serious. I was suspicious but curious about what she might reveal, so I agreed to meet her. Natalie had always been attractive, the smart one in Melissa's friend group. Pre-law, ambitious, and unlike some of Melissa's other friends, she actually had her life together. She was already waiting at Starbucks when I arrived, looking noticeably nervous, which was unusual for her typically confident demeanor. After some awkward small talk, she dropped a bomb that confirmed my worst suspicions. She confessed that she'd known about Chris for months. Melissa had been planning this break since he moved back to town, confiding in Natalie about her conflicted feelings and how she needed to explore her options before settling down with me. "She's been lying to you and it's not right," Natalie said, her hand brushing against mine on the table in a way that seemed more than friendly. "You deserve better than being someone's plan B." I thanked her for coming clean, but didn't reveal everything I knew or had done. "I appreciate your honesty," I said simply. As I got up to leave, Natalie grabbed my arm. "I've always thought Melissa was an idiot for not appreciating what she has with you." She held my gaze a beat longer than necessary. "Some of us would never take that for granted." The look she gave me made her meaning crystal clear. This was an interesting and unexpected twist to the situation. Over the next week, Natalie kept texting me. At first, she shared more details about Melissa and Chris, but the messages quickly became more personal. She started asking about my day, sending gym selfies, and suggesting dinner to talk more about the situation. I played along, curious to see where this was heading. I agreed to meet her for dinner one night, and she showed up looking stunning, clearly having put in extra effort for the occasion. Throughout dinner, she kept touching my arm, laughing harder than necessary at my jokes, and making it obvious she was available. "I've always been attracted to you," she admitted after dinner as we walked to our cars. "But I respected your relationship with Melissa. Now, though," I smiled and let my hand rest on hers. "Now things are different," I finished for her. I didn't take it further that night, even when she invited me up to her apartment. That wasn't my endgame. But having Natalie in my corner provided useful information that Melissa would soon discover. And the irony of her best friend making a move on me wasn't lost on me. Meanwhile, the house sold in just 9 days, $15,000 above asking price. I closed the deal and moved my remaining belongings to a sleek apartment downtown. I also accepted a promotion at work that I'd been on the fence about for a while. It came with a substantial raise but required relocating to our Chicago office. My life was completely transforming while Melissa remained clueless, still thinking I was at home waiting for her to finish finding herself. 3 weeks into her break, she texted that she wanted to meet that weekend to talk about us. Her timing couldn't have been better. Everything was in place for what I needed to do next. What she didn't know was that I'd already sold our house, canceled our wedding, packed my belongings, and lined up my new job in Chicago. Oh, and her best friend had been blowing up my phone with flirty texts and pictures all week. Game time. I suggested meeting Melissa at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory, public enough that she couldn't make a scene. Or so I thought. I arrived early, grabbed a corner table, and waited. When she walked in, I could tell she was in full win-him-back mode. Her hair was freshly done, she was wearing the blue dress she knew I liked, and her makeup was flawless. The works. Her face lit up when she spotted me, and she rushed over with a big smile, like we were in some romantic comedy reunion scene. She went for a hug that I barely returned, just a quick pat on the back. "I've missed you so much," she gushed, sitting down across from me. "These few weeks have been really eye-opening." I just sipped my coffee and let her talk. She launched into what seemed like a rehearsed speech about how seeing Chris again had given her the closure she needed, and made her realize I was truly the one. She claimed she was ready to fully commit to our future and couldn't wait to become my wife. Like I was supposed to just be waiting around with open arms for her return. When she finally stopped to breathe, I smiled calmly. "You done?" Her expression faltered a little. "What?" "I'm asking if you're done with your little speech," I clarified, keeping my voice even. She blinked, clearly confused by my tone. "Tom, I'm trying to tell you I want to come home, that I choose you." I leaned forward. "That's interesting timing, because I just sold our house." The color drained from her face. "You what?" "Sold it. Closed last week. Made a nice profit too," I replied casually as if discussing the weather. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "But where are you living?" "Got a sweet place downtown, just until next month when I move to Chicago for my new position." Her mouth opened and closed like a goldfish out of water. "Chicago? New position? What are you talking about?" I took another sip of coffee. "Oh, and I canceled the wedding. Lost some deposits, but most vendors were pretty understanding when I explained the situation." Tears started welling up in her eyes. "You canceled our wedding without even talking to me?" I let out a cold chuckle. "Oh, you mean like how you talked to me before running off to explore things with Chris, right? You didn't ask, you informed me. So I did the same." I met her stare, unblinking. "You wanted space? Congrats. Now you've got all the space in the world." "This isn't fair at all," she cried, getting louder and making people at nearby tables look over. "I just needed some time to be sure." I shrugged. "And I needed to move on with my life." I paused before adding, "By the way, I found your credit card statements. The $42,000 in debt you've been hiding. Including that weekend, you definitely weren't at your sister's. That's your problem now." Her face crumpled as reality hit her. Her safety net was gone. Her backup plan had vanished. "We can still fix this," she pleaded, reaching for my hand across the table. "We can push back the wedding, find another house." Her phone buzzed on the table. A text notification from Natalie lit up the screen. "Did he buy the fucking apology? LOL?" Melissa's eyes went wide as she grabbed her phone, but it was too late. I'd seen it, and she knew I'd seen it. "Natalie's been texting you?" She looked baffled. "Among other things," I said with a slight smile. "Though, to be honest, I've been more interested in getting to know Heather from my office. She's been incredibly supportive through all this." That part was actually true. While Natalie had been throwing herself at me mostly to get back at Melissa, as I'd find out later, Heather from accounting had been genuinely helpful, letting me vent, assisting with the relocation paperwork, just being a real friend. Something that might potentially turn into more once I moved to Chicago. But I was taking it slow, being careful after everything that had happened. There was no need to tell Melissa all these details, though. "You've been seeing other people?" she asked, voice cracking. "While I was gone." "No, Melissa. I've been rebuilding my life while you were cheating on me with your ex," I corrected her. "There's a difference." She broke down then, starting to cry in earnest. Mascara running down her face, shoulders shaking. People were definitely staring now. "Please, Tom. I made a terrible mistake. I love you," she sobbed. "We can start over. Please give me another chance." I stood up, dropping cash on the table for the coffee. "That's the thing, Mel. I already have started over. And my new life doesn't have room for someone who treats me like an option." As I walked toward the door, she called after me. "What am I supposed to do now?" I turned back one last time. "I hear Chris is available. The word is he's already seeing someone new." I paused before adding, "Tough break." The look on her face was priceless, like she couldn't process that her carefully laid plans had completely blown up in her face. Walking out of that coffee shop felt like dropping a 100-pound weight I didn't even know I was carrying. For weeks, I'd been so focused on the logistics, selling the house, canceling the wedding, setting up my move, that I hadn't fully processed my emotions. But in that moment, walking away from her tears and manipulation, I felt absolutely free. Later that night, the texts started coming in from Melissa. First apologetic. "I'm so sorry, please can we talk?" Then angry. "I can't believe you sold our house without telling me." And finally desperate. "I'll do anything to fix this, anything." I didn't respond to any of them. What was there left to say? The next day, her mom called me. Apparently, Melissa had shown up at her place in hysterics, telling some twisted version of events where I was the bad guy. Classic move on her part. Her mom actually seemed surprised when I calmly explained the real situation, including the Chris stuff. "I had no idea she was even in contact with him," her mom said, sounding genuinely shocked. She told me you two were just taking a break to think about the wedding. Well, now she has all the time in the world to think, I replied simply before ending the call. It's been 3 months since that coffee shop showdown with Melissa, and holy shit, has my life changed. Chicago is awesome. My apartment has this incredible view of the lake. I can literally see Navy Pier from my living room. The tech scene here is insane, and my new position has me heading up an entire division. More money, less stress, and actual respect from upper management. It's wild how quickly things can turn around when you remove toxic influences from your life. But I'm sure you want to hear about the drama, so let me catch you up on how everything wrapped up back home. About a week after I moved, I got a weird message request on Instagram. It was from Chris. Yeah, that Chris. I definitely didn't see that coming. He sent this long paragraph about how he never meant to cause problems between Melissa and me. He claimed that she had contacted him first, way before she asked for our break. According to him, she'd been messaging him for months after finding out he moved back to town, carefully planning her little exploration, while I was busting my ass at work and planning our wedding. The best part? Chris ended things with Melissa just days after our coffee shop meeting. His exact words, "If she could do this to you, she could do it to anyone." Karma's a bitch, ain't it? Through mutual friends, I heard Melissa's professional life took a nosedive too. Remember all those freelance clients she had lined up? Most of them found other designers. Not because I said anything bad about her. I didn't need to. Word gets around in the industry, especially in a city our size. One of her biggest clients actually reached out to me. "We heard what happened with the engagement," they said. "We're looking for someone who can commit to long-term projects. Do you know any reliable designers?" I recommended my friend Victor, who needed the work. They got the contract. Melissa got nothing. Her social media meltdown was something to see. First came the sad quotes about losing your soulmate and realizing what you had too late. Then angry posts about toxic people who can't handle personal growth. Finally, desperate attempts to show everyone how amazing her life was going. Her last big announcement was about starting her own design firm. 3 days later, a friend saw her sending out job applications at the local coffee shop. Guess that business venture didn't pan out as planned. Last week, her sister messaged me. Melissa's been staying with their parents for the past month, claiming she needs time to heal from our breakup. Her sister's exact words. She really thought you'd wait for her. When she found out you sold the house and moved across the country, it completely shattered her fantasy. Good, reality checks are important. The most satisfying moment came during a video call with our old friend group. They were filling me in on local gossip, and someone mentioned seeing Melissa at a cafe, trying to explain to a potential client why her portfolio website was down. Turns out she forgot that I was the one who had set it up and maintained it for her. She couldn't figure out how to renew the hosting when it expired. Not my problem anymore. My new life here is coming together better than I could have imagined. I've started taking German lessons since our company has an office in Berlin. I even adopted this goofy rescue dog named Bandit. Dude's a better companion than Melissa ever was. He doesn't lie about where he's been and is actually excited to see me when I get home from work. The tech community here is super welcoming. Last week, I was asked to speak at a developer conference, something that never would have happened if I'd stayed in my comfort zone back home. It's crazy how much you can accomplish when you're not dragging dead weight through life. I had one final interaction with Melissa about a month ago. She emailed asking for some old photos from our shared cloud account. I'd already downloaded what I wanted and closed the account weeks earlier. Her email said, "I know you're trying to erase me from your life, but you can't just delete our memories." Those 4 years meant something. My reply was simple. "You're right. Those years taught me what I don't want in a partner. Thanks for the lesson." Some mutual friends think I'm being too harsh. They say I should be more understanding of her moment of confusion. But that wasn't a moment. It was a calculated decision to keep me as a safety net while she pursued what she thought was a better option. I refused to feel bad about protecting myself. As for Natalie and that whole situation, we hooked up a couple times before I moved, but there wasn't anything real there. She was more about getting back at Melissa than actually being with me. I'm cool with that. We both got what we wanted from the arrangement. Heather from work ended up transferring to the Chicago office too. We've been dating for about a month now, taking it slow, but it's going well. She's straightforward, ambitious, and doesn't play games. The difference between her and Melissa is like night and day. The biggest lesson from all this? When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Melissa showed me exactly who she was. Someone willing to put our entire relationship on pause to test drive an ex. I'm just glad I found out before we signed those marriage papers. Now I'm in an awesome city with a killer job, making new friends and feeling positive about the future. The pain of betrayal has been replaced by genuine gratitude for dodging that bullet. Sometimes what feels like the worst thing that could happen to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened for you. Thanks for reading my story. Your comments and messages helped more than you know. Going to sign off now. Bandit needs a walk, and I've got dinner plans with Heather. Life goes on, and sometimes it goes on way better than you could have imagined.